Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we've got another deep dive for you. It's been a little bit since we did one, but I've got a couple of these strung out to record for you guys. Today, we're going to talk about the much improved large snakes in the Tyranid Codex. That is the Trygon and the Mawloc. Two classic models that up until now in 10th edition haven't been seeing a ton of play. Now they've got a nice big buff with gaining the Vanguard Invader keyword to work in Vanguard Onslaught. So we're going to talk about them to honor their new bringing into potentially competitive 40k for the Tyranids right now. So if that sounds good, do like and subscribe to stay updated on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. We cover a ton of content, Tyranid specific for the most part, but we do try and do a wide variety of things. We got battle reports, as you can see behind us, and try to feature the Tyranids in a majority of those. As well, I want to thank all of you members. We have a new dice cam. You can see the shadow of it pointing right there. A new 4K 60 FPS dice cam, which should make it so dice rolling is just a bit more smooth. We don't have the clunky camera in our way. So thank you to you guys. And I just want to put one more thing out here. Little long intro. But if you're watching this, the time it is released. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. U.S. Central Time. I'll put a link here. We're doing a live stream. It's going to be almost my birthday, so we're going to have a fun live stream. It'll be Battle for Macragge. So that is a custom scenario that GW released. It'll be my Tyranids doing a 3,000 point invasion force against a specialized 2,000 point Space Marine. The rules are adapted to make those uneven forces work, but stay tuned to see an awesome game that we're going to play out and just have a good time. Thank you for bearing with me. Now let's dive into today's video. So like all of our deep dives here we do on the channel, we are going to cover the overviews for the profiles of these two monsters. We'll go into their abilities, how I would play them in some detachment support, play style more or less, and then damage out comparison, a little bit of one, and wrap that all up into a conclusion at the end. So first off, the profile overviews. These two monsters share the same base profile. They are 10-inch move, 10 toughness, 3 up save, 14 wounds, leadership 8, and a 4 for their OC value. It's pretty solid. 10-inch movement is great. They are monsters, so they will have some issues potentially slithering around the buildings, but the 10 inches make up for that. Their durability is okay, but it's not fantastic. Toughness 10 is good against a lot of small and medium arms fire things, but as soon as you get the las cannons and the more anti-tank stuff here, it's going to crumble. 3 up save is fine. 14 wounds is their main saving grace, as they do have a lot of wounds you got to chunk through. It'll take at least 3 or 4 las cannons to deal with them. So good durability, but not fantastic like something like a Maliceptor. For their weapon profiles, they both have decent melee. Actually, they have pretty good melee. The Trygon does also have a ranged profile. We'll just touch on that quickly here because it's not huge. It's 6 shots, hitting on 3s, only 12-inch range. Strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. It is sustained hits too, which is neat, but this really isn't going to do much, but maybe a chip wound here or there throughout the game, so I don't count on it for much, but it's something it has. Its melee is where it really stands out. That is 12 attack, hitting on 3s, strength 9, AP -2, damage 3. So that is a great profile for dealing with a lot of those 3 wound things like the Gravis Marines, Terminators. Even if you get to Tau, a lot of their suits have 4, 5, maybe 6 wounds, so you can 2 swings go through, chop those things down. A great amount of attacks too. Then in the Mawloc, it's got a fun little jaw attack. It's 1 attack, hitting on 3s, strength 5, AP 0, damage 3. It is an extra attack, so it gets this on top, and it's anti-infantry 4+ with devastating wounds. So it's kind of just, the jaw goes down and eats something. It can be great, kill a Terminator with that, but again, don't count on it for much because it's only semi-reliable, and it's just one thing that it kills, so it's something, definitely. But its sizing talents are a force to be reckoned with. It's really nasty profile. So it's 16 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 8, AP -2, damage 1. That's solid. Strength 8 is good. Strength 9 is fine. These guys will both benefit from Synapse if they're in Synapse range. So you got Strength 10 on the Trygon and Strength 9 on the Mawloc, so it can wound medium vehicles like Rhinos on 4s, which is great. The biggest thing on the Mawloc is the AP -2 is very good for these large amount of damage 1 attacks. You'll see in a damage calculator, it'll allow them to just kind of pick through some of those medium to lighter armored infantry pretty good. So overall, yeah, great melee threats that these guys have. A little bit of damage output we'll go through right now just to show you that. So this is a kind of a staple we've done in a lot of our videos. So we have a couple instances with the Trygon and Mawloc here against a wide variety of targets just to gauge your idea. We've got Guardsmen or anything like a Termagant with T3, 5 save, 1 wound, Intercessors, Terminators, Gravis, Rhino, Land Raider, and Catan. Kind of just going through the progression of durability there. So the Trygon kills 7 Guardsmen, great. It kills 5 Intercessors. It kills 3 Terminators, but that Synapse boost does allow it to wound on 2s, so that gives you an extra Terminator kill there. Substantial damage to the Rhino. These things really pick apart those kind of models. They're perfect for, as you can see, the Terminator to Rhino toughness and wound count things. That is what you want to send your Trygons at melee, so they do some significant damage there. And then, like a lot of tiered monsters, when they get to that high durability stuff, they really fall off quick. Likewise with the Mawloc, it more specializes against that 1 wound stuff, so it kills a lot of the good old Guardsmen there. It does some more damage to the Intercessors, but it does, just being damage 1 in an okay strength, it does start to drop off when you get to the multi-wound models. It does damage, don't get me wrong, it does damage, but it, again, 1 damage stuff, it will fall off against the higher stuff. So that's a quick damage output for you. There are some special rules both of these have that are fantastic abilities. So for the Trygon, we have Subterranean Assaults. This is the 3-inch deep strike that it has. So you can pop in 3 inches away from your opponent instead of 9. You can still shoot, however, you cannot charge. This is a fantastic ability. Tyranids, unfortunately, this is our only way to access the 3-inch deep strike, which in a game of doing actions and pretty niche secondaries, it's a great ability to have. It's just a shame it's on a massive 170 point model here. So still, great ability. The Mawloc is a little different. It has Terror from the Deep, which is every time it's set up on the battlefield, you can use the Deep Strike ability. Sorry, these both have Deep Strike, I should say that, obviously. But when they're set up on the battlefield for the Mawloc, you roll a d6 for every enemy unit within 12 inches. On a 2 through 4, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 5+, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds and also must take a battle shock check, which can be pretty good. You can start comboing that with some things. But again, it's just a nice way. It's more of a distraction Carnifex. Pop it up, do some mortal wounds to a bunch of things. If it survives, great. Send it into melee, or you'll see Vanguard Onslaught have some other ways to manipulate that. Really just 2 good abilities. Can't complain with them at all. Detachment benefits. We have 6 detachments. So we'll see how they go in each of them. The big one, and we'll talk about this more even in depth on another slide because it's important, Vanguard Onslaught is their best detachment. They both gain Vanguard Invader keyword as of the June 2024 balanced data slate. That gives them access to Advance and Charge, Turn 1 Deep Strike, Returning to Reserves, 18-inch Lone Op strat, and a few other things that detachment gives them, which is fantastic abilities. The Assimilation Swarm, there's nothing really fancy here. It's just a disruption unit. Trygon, great for doing secondaries, I guess. Unending Swarm, same thing. Not a real benefit to them here, but it's, secondaries potentially. Crusher Stampede, these guys are monsters, so they do get some nice benefits there. The Trygon can be kind of annoying for your opponent because of the new Crusher Stampede rules that if the Trygon is at full health, it gains 2 OC. You can use a 3-inch Deep Strike and be OC6 with this monster. So if your opponent only has, say, an OC5 unit on the objective, boom, 3-inch Deep Strike, maybe you rapid ingress it, now it is your objective, and it forces them to do something to try and deal with that Trygon. Still a niche little thing there. Both of these models love the stratagems and the not the enhancements, but the stratagems and the detachment bonuses you get. +1 hit on a Trygon, and Mawloc, fantastic. That +1 to wound is even deadlier, so obviously they're monsters, they're going to benefit. Invasion fleet, pretty straightforward. They both like sustained and lethals. Otherwise, they're good just disruption unit, secondary scoring. And Synaptic Nexus. The Mawloc has some interesting play here, where some people like to play a very battle shock heavy style list. Mawloc is perfect for that. You take 2 or 3 of these guys, and they are popping in, causing mass battle shocks. You've got items like the Dirge Heart of Karis, which is an enhancement that lowers leadership. Death Leaper can lower leadership. If you want to play that battle shocky shenanigan stuff, Trygon or Mawlocs are pretty good in Synaptic Nexus too. And not to mention the 3 imperatives that you get in Synaptic Nexus. If you can get these guys in synapse range, they love them all as well. 5-up Invone goes a long way on these guys. +1 hit is wicked, and then if you can add a little bit extra to their movement, could be good if they're not already dead. So I mentioned we'll talk a bit more on Vanguard Onslaught specifically, which is where these guys really do shine. So for the Mawlocs, these 2 in Synaptic or Vanguard Onslaught can put out a ton of mortal wounds. So turn 1, you can pop in, do some mortal wounds, whoop-de-doo. You could do it turn 2, regular deep strike or rapid ingress, and cause some there. I kind of like the rapid ingress, but you can only do 1 at a time. Anyway, what you do, 2 of these guys pop in. They cover as many units as possible and just start dumping out mortal wounds. If you can find a key unit and get them both within a 12-inch bubble of these guys, they're on average taking 2d3 mortal wounds, which can, 4 mortal wounds to a key unit is not anything to laugh about, as well as it happening to potentially a large sweep of other units. If you get some sneaky battle shocks off, that could screw with your opponent's action economy, because now maybe they need to do an action on this objective, but their unit that was going that way is now battle shocked and they can't, so now they got to find some other resource to do it. The great thing about Vanguard Onslaught is because they have the Vanguard Invader keyword, you can use the stratagem to pull both of them back into reserve, so it forces your opponent to deal with these. Maybe you don't do it turn 1. Save these guys for turn 2 if you want. Play around with it however you feel, which one works, but if your opponent doesn't deal with these big snakes in their face, 1, they are going to go back in reserve and they'll do it all again. Or 2, if they do deal with them, well then that's a lot of guns and firepower that is not being diverted onto your main force that is rushing up the board just to get into melee. So really cool there that if you can get these guys alive or keep them alive, they can just keep pumping out mortal wounds like crazy. For the Trygon, he's pretty basic. That 3-inch deep strike is great. Likewise, he does have the Vanguard Invader keyword, so you can use the strat to pull him. Maybe one of your Mawlocs dies and you have a Mawloc and a Trygon. Well, you can pull that Trygon back into reserve and then pop back up. Maybe score another secondary or something. But this just, you can be pretty good with the Trygon and access to the advance and charge on it. Maybe you rapid ingress the Trygon. Keep it nice and safe because you're going to get 10 plus 3d6 essentially to close the distance into melee, which is where the Trygon wants to be. And that really wraps it up there. Both of these snakes, again, they weren't used much. Some people tried them in Synaptic Nexus, and they still work there. Like I said, with the whole Shadow in the Warp and battle shocking shenanigans, heavy list, they still work there. Shadow in the Warp got a little bit better, so they got a little bit better, sort of playing in that game style. But Trygons, they've always been that 3-inch unit deep strike. I had success with one early on in the edition. I brought one a lot, and I really enjoyed it. But now in Vanguard Onslaught, that opens up some big monsters to benefit from this detachment, which is what they really needed. But really, that's it. I'd say they're pretty simple, but they are straightforward. The Trygon, it has its job. That 3-inch deep strike gives it its job. And the Mawloc, it's a big distraction Carnifex worm that does mortal wounds. I think they both are pretty good now. The point cost on the Trygon, I think, is a little high as it stands right now. I'd like to see him come down maybe 10, 15 points, but I understand that 3-inch deep strike can be super powerful. Likewise, I think the Mawlocs are pretty ideal for their point value. 140 or 145, I can't remember off the top of my head, is a very, very good point cost for what they do. I'm hoping on the channel here that I will cover some Vanguard Onslaught lists. I have currently let's see. I have a Trygon and a Mawloc. As you can see, one of the Trygons right here. I'm painting up another Trygon and another Mawloc so I can play some fun games with Vanguard and Vader. I want to do it. It's probably my least played detachment right now, just because, I mean, I have the units, I haven't really felt that detachment. But with the big snakes, some of my favorite units, I'm happy to bring them back. So that's what I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Again, check out the live stream tomorrow, Battle for Macragge. I think I'm bringing a Trygon, so you'll get to see one of those guys in action. It'll be at 1 p.m. Again, link if you haven't already clicked it here or in the description. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time here at Mouse from Gaming Studios.